Board of Supervisors welcomes comments from the public during the time allowed for discussion. You are requested to approach the microphone, state your name for the record, and limit the time used to present your remarks in order that others may be given the opportunity to speak. The normal process on any agenda item is for the chairperson to read the item from the agenda. The board is given an opportunity to comment on the issue and/or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented, at which time the public may participate, and a roll call vote will follow. Number one, approval or amendment of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda as printed.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as printed. Roll call vote.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik.
Yes. Motion passes. Consent agenda. Number two, approve minutes from the regular session of September 15, 2020. Three, appointment commencing July 1, 2020. Marshall County Compensation Board, Mark Eaton, Sheriff Representative for a 4-year term.
Hasn't approved it. Council has to approve it.
Accept official report on County Highway Engineer fiscal year 2020.
See it?
Yes. And
Number 5, file district court report, August 2020. General supplemental fund surcharge of $606.65. Number 6, approve claims. Approve claims as audited and authorize the county auditor and the recorder to issue payment of the same. The listing of claims paid at this meeting and all claims paid in the month of September will be published as part of the first meeting in October.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as printed. Roll call vote.
Thompson.
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik.
Yes. Motion passes. Number 7, approve personnel action. This is a hire, Trenton Kiesler, Sheriff's Office, jailer, full-time rate of pay, $19.41 an hour, effective September 30th of 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the personnel action of hiring Trenton Kiesler, Sheriff's Office jailer, full-time rate of pay of $19.41 per hour, effective September 30th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to hire Trenton Kiesler, $19.41 an hour. Any discussion?
This is just a replacement.
Okay. Is the sheriff with us this morning? Does he have anything to offer?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I'm here, Chairman.
Oh, good morning. Good morning.
He must be the call-in.
We're just in the process of approving your new hire here. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you. As Supervisor Thompson noted, this is not an addition. It's a replacement for one of our vacancies.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff. Is there any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik.
Yes. Motion passes. We are going to make a change at this point. We are going to discuss the CICS region, discussion regarding a request by Wright, Cerro Gordo, and Webster counties to join the existing 11-county CICS region. I believe we have a guest with us this morning, Russell Wood. Russell, can you hear us?
I can. I would point out, I didn't know you were having the meeting till Lisa Soder let me know yesterday, so I appreciate your letting me speak. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, or if you want background information, I'm more than happy to provide that as well.
Russell, I apologize. I thought at our meeting that you were going to be talking at Hardin County today, so I never even contacted you.
That was yesterday, Bill, but thank you, though. I'm more than happy. I told Bill and the rest of the board, I'm more than happy at any point in time to provide any information that you folks might see. I do want to point out that I see Jill Eaton is also on here, so Jill will call me to task if I say anything wrong.
Yes, she will.
Yeah.
Yes, she will.
Russell, I printed off those 2 pages that we had at our CICS meeting and gave one to each of the supervisors. So they have those figures. They have the figures that everything we talked about there. if you could, you can summarize any of that, but on the one page, you talk about general advantages and disadvantages by adding these counties. Would really like them to hear you discuss that if you could, please.
Sure. So primarily what Bill's referring to, in backing up a little bit, we had been approached by Sarasota County a couple of years ago. And when CICS looked at it at that point in time, the CICS staff weren't 100% comfortable with them coming because they had a lot of staff that were Sarasota County staff. They had a program that's called iStart, and a lot of those staff were Sarasota County employees. That didn't occur 2 years ago, but in the subsequent years, there's been legislation multiple times that has allowed the county social services counties to either leave their current counties or start a new region, whatever the case may be. And there have been a number of counties in that region that have asked to either leave or be able to form their own region. And at this point in time, 3 counties have already left. 3 counties have applied to be members of Central Iowa Community Services. First, we had Webster County, which is Fort Dodge. Then we had Sarasota County, which is Mason City. Because Sarasota County would be a bottleneck for their region, that creates an issue for counties to the west that they have to decide what they would like to do. Wright County felt that CICS was a better move for them. Humboldt and Pocahontas have officially applied to Rolling Hills, which is out of Storm Lake. And Hancock County has applied to Northwest Iowa Care Connections, which is out of Spencer, which is where the other 3 counties that have already left, Kossuth, Winnebago, and Worth, that's where they went. So legislation was passed this year that does require the Department of Human Services to split the CSS region, County Social Services, in 2. It does not say where that split will take place. It just requires them to do so. Webster County and Sarasota County have expressed frustration with their region for a number of years. And so at this point in time with that legislation, they have applied to be part of our region. Our administrative team did look at their application and their information, and that information I did summarize in the document that Bill passed out to you folks. But that, from the admin team's perspective, they did vote 5-0 that they felt it would be a good idea to add Sarasota and Wright, and they voted 4-1 that they felt it would be a good idea to add Webster. And the reason that Webster was a 4-1 vote instead of a 5-0 vote, and at the Hardin County Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday, Lynn Adams did tell them, so it is public information I wasn't going to share, but he is the one that voted not to have Webster. And his feeling was, and I understand where he's coming from, that Webster County does not bring as much to the table as what Sarasota does. So if you look at the document that Bill is referring to, I do go through a number of issues that counties should consider, that the region should consider before adding additional counties. And first and foremost is that whenever you add anything to the mix, it changes things. So we have a corporate structure that is very solid, that's very stable, and things work well. Adding additional counties could end up changing the structure of our region, could change the culture of our governing board. And so that's something that our governing board really needs to address. Now, there was discussion at our meeting last Thursday. Supervisor Bailey from Hamilton County did ask the supervisors from Webster and Sarasota if they would be willing to step down and have a different appointment to our board rather than the one from the CSS board, and they both agreed to it. Supervisor Bailey felt that potentially there was some conflict that was between those supervisors and their prior region or their current region, and so he felt that it would be more comfortable for us as a region if we had different appointees from those 2 counties. I also, in talking to a number of supervisors, and I sent this email out to Bill this morning, but I'm not sure, Bill, since you're in your meeting, if you received it. But one of the things we talked about for mitigation strategies is potentially changing our 2080 to create an executive board that can only have memberships, in a nutshell, it can only have members who have been part of our region for a number of years. And that would make it so that new people coming into our region couldn't just change our 2080 to reflect their current region. So the reason for that is, and I've brought this up to our governing board, is the department is under an edict from the legislature that they will help to facilitate changes in that region. If changes can't be facilitated amicably or voluntarily, then in February, the department will come in and appoint counties to regions if things haven't been resolved. What we've done is we've come to the governing board and we've identified as an administrative team that we feel that we can incorporate these counties into our region, but if we are going to, we would like to do it sooner rather than later. And the reason for that is we have the budgeting process that will need to be handled. We will have to do contracting with all of the providers. We will have to identify all of the clients who currently have services and change those funding authorizations from CSS to Central Iowa Community Services. There are a number of things that we have to do, and having more time to do it would be more beneficial for us than doing it in a shorter time frame. So the reason why we looked at adding these counties and thinking that it would be a positive for us is that we kind of really are an insurance agency. So Central Iowa Community Services primarily does three things. We coordinate care for individuals with disabilities. We develop services for individuals with disabilities. But a primary function is we spend on the average about $12 million a year to pay for services for individuals with disabilities. So when you look at things from an insurance perspective, adding counties adds covered lives, it adds premiums, and so it allows us to share the risk or spread the risk over more individuals. So by adding more population, it helps us to avoid any potential outliers in the system and allows us to smooth out those potential increases or high cost individuals. It also allows us to add providers to our region in a contracting basis, especially from the folks in Cerro Gordo County. We have an inpatient behavioral health unit in Mercy, up in Mason City. We also have 43 North Iowa, which used to be the North Iowa Transition Center, North Iowa Vocational Services. We have med prescribers through Mason City Clinic. There are a number of other providers that come out of that area. This does two things. It allows us to have the ability to contract in a way that puts us as a host region. And so we have the negotiation power as we look at service development and prioritization. It also allows us to have a deeper bench, if you will, on our service provider network. Right now, when we look at developing complex needs services and we look at developing something more region-wide, we do tap into a lot of times the same providers, and they're excellent providers. Optime, which we've used to expand services into Marshall County, Irely Ball, which we've used to expand services with our mobile crisis response team, et cetera, also covers Marshall County. But as we continue to tap into the same service providers, they also are tapping into the same employment pool. So it does create issues for them in that they have to find more employees. It also moves them further away from their corporate base. Adding these counties to our system, to the region, allows us to have an additional service anchor on the northern part of our region. It is closer for a lot of our counties in our region to get services potentially from Webster, Cerro Gordo, and Wright when we're looking at things than it would be to go down to Ames and look at services there. So this gives us the ability to do that. The final thing or I have two more things. One smaller thing is that I do think that we have some capacity in our region, and that has to do with our current staffing structure. So if we add counties, we may be able to capitalize on unique skill sets that we have. We have people that have been trained to do certain things, and by adding more counties, it allows them to be able to expand those skills, learn and utilize those skills in other areas. But the final thing that I wanted to add is that adding other counties in the northern and western part of our region allows us to add what I refer to in the document as critical mass. It lets us have more counties and more covered individuals when we look at developing complex needs services. So if we have to develop, for instance, a subacute facility, that is an intensive service that has a significant cost. You can't do it unless you have the ability for the provider to have enough clients that they can bill Medicaid to cover their cost. So having those other counties involved in this region allows us to look at service development outside of what may normally be the go-to in the Ames area. So it would allow us to develop services that are more spread out, which once again gives us that greater or deeper bench and the additional service anchor area. So as I said, and I said this to the governing board on Thursday last week, and it's in the last paragraph of the document, basically what it comes down to is, does adding counties, and this is something to consider, does adding counties assist or interfere with our ability to provide services to the clients that are currently in this region? And in the administrative team's opinion, it benefits us. It does not detract from our mission. It enhances our mission. Bill, I think, had identified, if you look at the document, there's some financial information in there. The counties that we're looking at potentially adding to our region do, in fact, bring more money into the system than they would cost. And so that is something that we wanted to make sure is that we would not have, I'm trying to find an email that I sent yesterday to tell you, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a county that is coming into the region that costs more money than it can generate. It would not be fair to ask Marshall County property taxpayers, for instance, to levy more dollars so that we could pay for services for people in Fort Dodge. Once they become a region, we would fully embrace them as part of our region. We don't track things by county, make sure you get every dollar that you spent back in your county. But if we're bringing somebody into the region, we want to make sure that they're bringing enough revenue that they are a full partner in what we do and what our mission is. But when we looked at this, that definitely was something that we were able to identify. When I met with Hardin County yesterday, this is not something that I did share with the governing board. It wasn't brought up and it slipped my mind. But they also, when they come into the region, they will bring fund balance from their current region. So they will not come in empty-handed. At this point in time, between the three counties, I think it was somewhere between around $2 million, I think, is what the fund balance would be that they would, and that's a projection. So that, of course, depends on what they would actually spend this year versus what their projected expenditures were. So we're not exactly sure where that would be, but that's currently what we're looking at. So I've kind of talked for a long time and I've given you a lot of information. I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Do all your counties levy the same amount?
Yes, sir. At this point in time, our regional levy is $26 per capita. And so the way a per capita works is they figure out you can levy $26, or in our region, our maximum is $35.50. So they look at $35.50 times the total population of our region would come somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 million. So then they take that and they say, okay, in Marshall County, if your population was 10 people, $35.50 per capita means you could levy $355. They give that to your auditor, then your auditor has to do backwards math and figure out, based on property values, et cetera, how much by classification, by dollar, et cetera. So it's really kind of a math thing the auditors get to do. The county social services region is currently levying $30, so they are levying more money than we are currently. Any county in that region that joined our region, their levy would match what we're currently doing, what we budget to do for next year. And Betsy Sturzma from Warren County is the one that is taking Jill's place to do finance. And so we're meeting again this week to look at preliminary budget information and look at what we're recommending for levies for next year. And Bill has heard this. Due to COVID-19, we did spend significantly less last year than what we had projected. And the first quarter of this year, we are also spending less. That means that our fund balance is increasing instead of decreasing. We have a state mandate to make sure that our fund balance does not exceed 40%. And based on that, we may be recommending to the governing board, I'm pretty sure we'll be recommending to the governing board that we actually reduce our levy, not increase it. Our plans last year, when we looked at the dollars, were to increase potentially this coming year from the 26 we're currently at to 30. But at this point in time, if we do that, we're not sure that we'll be able to get our fund balance down when need be. That's a long answer to your yes.
The two counties that were leaving the other region because of, it sounds, personality issues with the two supervisors, was it more the two supervisors, or was it programs that those two counties had going that the region didn't want?
I think that there's a couple of things there. First off, the counties expressed to us in Webster County, one of the concerns they raised was that they're very far away from Waterloo, and a lot of service development in county social services was around the facility that they have in Waterloo. It's a great program, it's a great asset, and we use it as well for crisis stabilization, subacute, et cetera. But a lot of service development was done around that facility. And so when you get to the western part of their region, there was a feeling that they did not have service development there that other parts of their region may have. They also felt that communication was not transparent, and they didn't necessarily get answers to questions when they asked them. And the third thing was that, and this might be what you're alluding to, that region provides services. They still do case management, which some of the counties in our region did, but we no longer do. They also provided a service called iStart. And so that region is the provider of services for clients in their region. Central Iowa Community Services chose, the governing board chose, based on recommendations from the administrative team, that we are no longer a provider of services effective July of this year for any of our counties. So if those counties joined our region, we would not bring in the service provision part of those counties. That would be something that county social services would have to decide. If they're a fiscally viable or fiscally sound provider agency, they could continue to employ those staff and provide services. But if they were actually being subsidized by the region, then they would have to decide whether they were willing to continue to provide services. For Cerro Gordo County, some of those same things were echoed. There are services that we have done in Central Iowa Community Services that we've developed that have not yet been developed in other parts of the state. And we've just been we've really seen it as part of our mission to make sure that we have services developed. And so I think that's going to benefit those folks. And that's one of the things that they brought in. I will say, just as a final response to your question, that at one of our governing board meetings, we did have a supervisor that asked, why would we add two counties that can't get along with their current region? And I would point out that there are 3 counties in that region that already left. And then here are 2 more. So when it's 5 or more counties in your region that want to leave, it's not necessarily a personality issue. So I think there's probably some frustration on the part of those 2 board members that they've tried to affect change in their region and have not been successful in doing so. And I think that we all have experienced frustration when we try to affect change and we're not successful. But at this point in time, one of the mitigation issues, like I said, Supervisor Bailey brought up, was having a different member appointed to our governing board so that we're adding those counties and not necessarily any issues that they may be bringing along with them.
Thank you.
Bill, is there anything you would like to add at this point?
No, Russell, I appreciate you coming this morning. It's always good to hear a third or fourth person come forth, because you always say it a little differently than perhaps I would. So.
Now, as I understand it, when you meet as a board, you are going to vote on each of these counties separately and not as a group. So if there's one that you want to include or exclude, you can.
That's been the direction I've been given so far, is that board members would like to vote separately.
Okay. That's what I would recommend.
Jill Eaton, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you unmute?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, look, look at you. You're on a cruise. Way to go.
She's been on there since March. She still has the COVID. The boat's still at the dock.
Good for her. Good for her. Jill, what are your thoughts on this? Just interested in a little background from you, or give me your thoughts.
I have not been a part of these conversations. I was just curious what the explanation was. I know the admin team has really delved into this and thought it out well. I don't have an opinion on whether it should or shouldn't. These counties obviously need a place to go, and the state looks at regions as mental health regions. They don't look at CICS being a good region and somebody else being not as well thought of. So I think, for the importance of maintaining the good quality of mental health regions, it's probably, a fine idea. I don't have a comment on whether it should be one county or both counties or all three counties. So I'll leave that to Russell and the work that the admin team has done. But I just wanted to listen in on the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. And Russell, thank you for being with us here this morning. We put you ahead here so you wouldn't have to sit through this whole meeting. So I apologize to others that we had to put off here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, very good. We will we will move to request to place a tiny house on property. Discussion and possible action to waive section 18 of Article 4 of the Marshall County zoning ordinance number 3, one principal building to a lot. The Ellis's realized that normal procedure is to take this before the Marshall County Board of Adjustment. However, the date of the next Board of Adjustment meeting does not fit the time frame for the Ellis's being able to get this project completed before winter. Thus, they would like for the Marshall County Board of Supervisors to waive section 18 of Article 4 of Marshall County zoning ordinance number 3 without going to the Marshall County Board of Adjustment. Who would like to speak to this at this point?
Hi, my name is Mindy. I'm on here.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just want to thank you guys for your time speaking with us, because I know that this isn't exactly the way it was supposed to happen. I just want to explain a little bit on our side of why we are wanting to put the tiny home on the property. I know I gave a letter to Mr. Apfel to send in to you guys. And the whole situation here is we have an aunt that we are taking care of that is disabled. She is wheelchair bound. She is currently living in Des Moines, and that's about 45 minutes from us. So anytime there is any form of an emergency or anybody that needs to be able to get to her quickly, it's not always easy for us to get to her. And especially when, as winter approaches, sometimes the weather is just really bad and it's hard for us to get to her. We take care of her every day. And we are looking at we would like to put a tiny home on the property temporarily. She is elderly, so it would just be a temporary situation to just better the rest of her quality of life. So that we can go over and check on her daily, that we can start bringing her better meals, being able to go in and clean her home, just doing the daily things that need to be done. And again, like I said, she is disabled, so there's a lot of things that she is not able to do herself. And that would just be really the best action. I don't know what else we could possibly do. I've heard that you guys aren't quite favorable of this, so I was wondering if we could just have a discussion on if there's some suggestions that you guys could make, or if there's any other information you're looking for about the situation.
Well, Todd has visited with us a little bit about it. Todd, do you have anything you'd like to say at this point?
The suggestions I gave was something on wheels, like a camper. They make all season campers. And my experience is that they're probably better winterized than a tiny home is. It's got to be temporary. That's,
Right.
And so we've got, an all season camper. If you could have kept this on wheels, that would make it temporary. But your indication to me was that the wheels would be taken off a bit, because and I don't see too many tiny homes. They're kind of new to us, but the ones I've seen have been on wheels. Or to even put a covered walkway from the house to the tiny home, that would make it an addition to the house versus separate residence to the house.
Is this something you would consider or have thought about? What are your thoughts?
So I've talked to my husband about possibly doing something that stays on wheels. What I'm worried about is we do get, we're out in the country. With the wind that we get, sometimes I worry that it would need to be something, even though it would be temporary, that would be secured into the ground. Part of the problem with any sort of a mobile home on any level or a camper is that she is wheelchair bound. So she cannot do stairs at all. So that was my struggle with, I don't know how we would do anything where she would have to go into a camper. I don't know if they make a disabled accessible campers that we wouldn't have to worry about. But if it's on wheels, she would have to go upstairs to try to get into the camper.
Two things there. One, my parents were in their late 80s and lived in a motorhome all year round. I made them a ramp to get in and out of it. But on Wheels' part, when they got rid of their motorhome, they actually now ended up being my house down in Texas. We've got, it's a little bit bigger than a tiny house. It's called a park model, and that's on wheels. It's strapped down with hurricane straps. They just got hit with a hurricane down there about a month and a half ago, and it didn't sustain any damage. I mean, there's going to be damage. I'm just trying to come up with ways it's temporary, you know, and not permanent.
I can tell you, we lived in a mobile home for a time, and it was dug down into the ground about probably 2.5 feet, so that the door was even with at the ground level. I don't know if that's something you're in a position to do or not, but it's just a thought.
Sure. Well, yeah, and you know, in the tiny houses that we were looking at, they are already built, so they would have to bring them in, you know, on some sort of wheels, because it's an already built case. We would just have to, you know, remodel the inside. But so that was just where, because basically the tiny homes, it would be the cheapest way. The tiny homes that we've been looking at are, you know, between around $8,000. So it would be the most cost-effective way to bring it in. Again, something temporary, just while she's living.
Todd, did you have some timeframes where you had asked for some information from these folks that they did not get back and contact you on?
No, what we missed the October, you know, by meeting today, we missed the chance to do the October Board of Adjustment. That now would have to go to November, because the October Board of Adjustments due date was yesterday. Or actually, it was last week. Yeah.
It was last week.
It was last Tuesday.
Why didn't you just put it on the Board of Adjustment meeting?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I wasn't really sure what meeting. We were kind of going back and forth through email, and I wasn't really sure what meeting I needed to attend. He let me know if I didn't go to this one, then it would have to be pushed out to November.
But if you read it, I didn't bring it with me, but I was trying to be as clear as possible that we had the October meeting. You had a choice between doing the October meeting or doing this, and I gave you the option which one you wanted to do, and you chose this. I said by doing this, you would be putting off the Board of Adjustment to November.
I can hear the concern in your voice here. I'll tell you what my thought is. I don't like to go over the Board of Adjustment. That's one of the reasons that we have the Board of Adjustment. And I would like that. I would really like it to go through them instead of us making a decision on this. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
I feel the same way.
And I have no wiggle room. I have to go by what the letter of the law, the zoning laws are.
Okay.
That's why we have the Board of Adjustment.
And you know, and I'm not trying to go over anybody's heads. That was not my intention here. I wanted to get into a meeting as soon as possible. And the reason being is because I really wanted to be able to put a home so she can move in onto this property as soon as possible before winter hits, because no matter what we put out here, we have to be able to get electricity hooked up. We're going to have to get a septic system put in for that home. So that was just the reason I was trying to get this through quick, you know, as quickly as possible. Again, before winter hit, before the ground got too hard to be able to dig it all. So again, I wasn't trying to go over anybody's head or go about it in a wrong way.
I'd really like to use the system that we already have set up. I can tell you, we shouldn't have frozen ground until at least the middle of December. That would give you time to still do some things here yet this fall. I guess if I have a recommendation at this point, I would like to say just go to the Board of Adjustment.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to motion that we do not waive section 18 of Article 4 of the Marshall County zoning ordinance number 3 without going through the Marshall County Board of Adjustment.
Is there a second?
I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded to not go through, to not make an opinion today. And
I want the board to handle this. That's their job. We ask these people in a volunteer organization to give freely of their time. And two things I won't do. Do their job for them once they volunteer and override them once they make a decision.
we have a motion on the floor here. Is there any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik.
Yes. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Number 9, Great Western Bank closed for holiday observance. Discussion and possible action regarding the Great Western Bank Columbus Day holiday observance on Monday, October 12th, 2020 for county employees.
In the past, we've left it at the discretion of the department head that's located in Great Western Bank on how it's handled on that date. So that's what we've done historically.
I would recommend we do the same thing.
Unfortunately, the mean auditor usually makes everybody help with elections because we can be out
I've
of the
heard
building.
she's kind of cranky.
She is, yeah. She makes people
Yeah.
work on that, yeah.
Probably the board she has to work with.
Could be, could be. Might have come in that way, who knows?
You never know.
Yeah. Mhm.
I've heard those rumors.
So the motion is,
We haven't
We
really
don't have a
They haven't made
yet.
one.
okay.
So what you're advising is that we close the bank with the bank as we're guests of the bank.
We cannot be in the bank.
So I would move then that on October 12th, that we not be in the bank building.
Now, that will still allow everybody that works at either from home or outside the bank building to be able to do their job at the discretion of the department head,
Yes, or to do to work offsite.
offsite.
Yeah, leaving it up to the department head lets them work in another location. We just can't be in the bank.
You know, because you're going to have all your functions going on with the elections. Several of your individuals do work offsite currently,
Yeah, one.
one,
Mhm.
you know. so-
Well, and I've got two in the engineer's office.
Really, exactly, from
yeah.
our accounting functions. So in your particular area, it's just going to be who would come in from the general public for an appointment. Shouldn't be an issue.
Right, that we wouldn't be able to serve vitals or DNR
Okay.
passports, recordings that day, but
I would second Bill's motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded then to observe Columbus Day, the same as the bank does. And we will not be in the offices of the bank.
At the discretion of the department
And
heads.
leave this to the discretion of the department heads.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
I will add that I know Mike Stegman's always looking for volunteers, for
Yes.
those people that are in the bank to help pick up trash. So if it looks like it's a decent weather day,
Or clean up debris.
It's debris.
clean up
Yeah.
storm debris. That's what I was for Mike. I'm sure he would welcome additional folks doing that.
All right, if there's no other discussion, we'll do a roll call vote.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Solosik.
Yes. All right, very good. We'll move on to number 10. This is a discussion item only. Jerry and Kim Gratup are requesting to discuss with the Board of Supervisors the possibility of an ordinance
Could you go down and let somebody in the front door?
that would help protect consumers from
Before she-
unqualified or uninsured contractors. Kim, I thought I saw you here this morning. You're still there, I see. You need to unmute, Kim.
Unmute.
me get James. James, can you unmute Kimberly?
We are working on it as we speak. There we go. I think she's on.
Oh, we can hear her.
Good morning, Kim.
Can you hear me?
Now we
Yes.
can.
Hello?
Can you hear us? No.
She's going back to.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me at all?
Yes, we can. You can't hear us evidently?
I can hear you. Yes, I can.
We hear
We're
you also.
going. We're rolling here.
Oh, you can hear me too?
Yes, you bet.
Okay. Sorry, I'm new to Zoom. So this is my first experience. I'm not very good at it, obviously. All right. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead and share with us here, Kim, what your thoughts are.
Okay, so yes, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to let me speak. And so our situation is this. We, as well as at least one other family in our community, have had the misfortune of dealing with a local contractor here in the Marshalltown area that has not fulfilled his contract for either of us. In our situation, we're building a new house out in the county. And that house basically is, we will get it finished, but not with the contractor we started with. We had a contractor that did the building itself and another contractor doing the finished work inside. And it is the finished work inside that is the issue. We have done some speaking with a city council member who has done some looking into this, as well as, speaking with you folks today. And I've spoke to the Attorney General's office. I have also, we've spoke to the sheriff and our attorney. So we are pursuing the legal actions that we can take. My concern is this: it seems that the state regulates or registers contractors, and and after the tornado, the city has required contractors to be insured. The problem with that is that when a contractor is insured, they are insured for if you get injured on their work site, or if, things like that. They're not insured for faulty workmanship. So there's no insurance that covers the consumer. They're not insured for abandoning their job or their contract. So basically the contract that you sign with any contractor means nothing. And when you try to pursue a criminal case, you get told by the county attorney and the Attorney General's office that no laws have been broken. So there's really nothing in place to protect the citizens from things like this. And there's no consequences for contractors for doing something like this. So, I'd be happy to answer questions about our specific situation if you have any. But I guess going forward, I am just asking that the county supervisors possibly consider a county ordinance that would help protect consumers. Again, making a contractor be insured isn't necessarily the protection that a consumer needs in this type of situation. They're needing something for faulty workmanship to cover that, and something that would also encompass the fact that if a contractor takes a certain amount of money and then just walks away from the project. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring to your attention today. When I did speak with Sue Cahill on the city council, she said she got some information, basically what I told you, that the state will register them, but not all of the contractors working within our community are registered with the state either. And I'm not sure exactly how we go about finding that out. But I would like you to consider some type of an ordinance to help protect citizens so this doesn't continue happening to other families in our communities.
Kim, can you tell us if the city of Marshalltown has something in place to deal with this kind of thing?
Yep, the city, after the tornado, they started requiring contractors to be insured. which is great, except that insurance does not protect the consumer. So for example, if I go out to that work site and I get injured on that work site, the insurance would cover that type of a situation, but they do not cover faulty workmanship or unfinished projects. And even if they are, bonded, it's not going to cover those types of things, is my understanding. So again, even with insurance being required of them, it doesn't cover them not fulfilling their contract or not doing a good job.
Okay. Todd, what can you offer? What are other counties doing?
I checked basically counties that are similar to ours and around us: Hardin, Story, Powersheet, Tama, Benton. They all have basically the same thing that we have, and it's not a building permit, it's a zoning permit. We call it a building permit, but it's basically that your building's going to meet our zoning regulations. And I was surprised even Story County has that, with Ames being there. But nobody has anything, and I don't even know just offhand how you would implement something where you could, how do you ensure that? Because, whether a project was done properly or not.
It's subjective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like a nuisance law. What is junk to somebody is treasure to somebody else. And I mean, I've checked, like I said, I checked around our counties in our area here, and we actually go in what's required to fill out the permit, probably have the most comprehensive permit system. Everybody else is just a one-page sheet, basically what's your setbacks, what are you zoned as, and that's it.
We don't necessarily require anything for a rebuild. If it's a direct rebuild or repair, there's nothing required.
And even out in the county, if you're zoned ag, there's nothing required.
This is a new building, of course, fresh.
Maybe rural residential, but it doesn't, I guess my thing is who's going to be the judge on whether that was done properly or not? Would we have to hire somebody with an engineering degree then to go in there and do these inspections?
So in other words, their redress would probably be small claims court.
Yeah, it's more of a civil issue.
It's a civil issue
and the homeowner than it is. I mean, I have sympathy for this, but it's given what we've got for resources, it's hiring another engineer almost. I mean, that's based on what I'm hearing, what needs to be done.
Well, and I'm not so concerned about the faulty workmanship. I mean, the mistakes that he's made, those can be fixed, is my understanding. My concern is more for the actual fact that this is more than small claims. We're talking about over $100,000 worth of money and a house with 0 rooms completed. And according to his contract, he was to supply certain items and has not supplied those, has not been on the site in 2.5 months, I believe. Does not return phone calls, does not respond to text messages, does not try to contact us to do the work. And so, yes, we have pursued a civil suit. We are in the process of making that happen, and we have been dealing with our attorney, but there is absolutely nothing. So there's nothing to hold him accountable. So why wouldn't he continue to sign contracts with people, take money from them, and walk away? Because that's what we're allowing him to do.
Have you done anything with the Better Business Bureau, Kim, or any other direction?
I filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office. I have been waiting for my attorney to notify him that he is being, basically what they've done is they've sent him a letter, and he's got time to respond to that letter. And then from there, then they would actually file suit. And again, from what my understanding, even with that suit, he'll have legal actions that he can take that will protect him, and he'll walk away.
I guess then what, I'm trying to be specific here, is what are you looking for from the county? What, you know, what would we do that could have, what could we have done that would have prevented that? What can we put in place that would prevent that?
Right. And again, I'm not even sure of that. That's why I'm coming to you to maybe mull this over or think it through. Because obviously having them be insured doesn't protect your consumers. So whether it be something where, you know, maybe an ordinance that they can only collect so much until a job is completed, or, you know, a certain percentage of that job. I don't know, some way that would help protect consumers. Because the contract that we signed, which like with any contract, it protects the person that's providing the contract. But he, under the terms of his contract, he was able to take an awful lot of money and really not complete anything. So I think whether there be a contract that is drafted that contractors, you know, that protects the consumer as well as that contractor, or whether we would look at the fact that there are, you know, other ways to regulate this in some way. I mean, I think having them have insurance, you know, is a great step, a great thing. But again, that's only in the city limits. Out in the county, you've got contractors that don't even have to be insured because, again, you just sign that zoning paperwork or whatever, and off they go. And anyone can say they're a general contractor and go start a project and walk away. So I'm just kind of concerned that we don't have any way in the county to regulate this. And again, I don't know what those answers might be.
Chairman Solosik, Sheriff Hoffman here.
Good morning, Sheriff.
This has been a long-standing issue, and in recent times it's had some publicity across the state. I know that the Iowa County Attorneys Association in recent years has proposed legislation related to this widespread issue, and we've dealt with this before in the county as well, costing, you know, our residents tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in these type of situations where contractors don't follow through on their obligations, and then either under their LLC or other terms, you know, file bankruptcy and still leave people holding the bag, so to speak, for these losses. One of the proposals that has been made has been to require surety bonds, which could protect these parties in the event then of default on their contract. And that's really where our residents have struggled historically. If they get a judgment, which is obviously exceeding the scope of small claims actions in most of these cases, that one, after the judgment is made, then the other party follows through on bankruptcy proceedings, and the other unfortunate part in the civil case, the collections part falls at the responsibility of our residents, assuming that they win their action in civil court. The courts don't have follow-up measures to make sure that people pay their judgments, so it adds some complexity to these very disheartening events.
Surety bond could also be required by the consumer rather than just by the government.
Right, yes.
That possibility already exists.
Okay. Am I hearing that maybe this ought to be something that is taken up with the state? Should the state have some kind of a policy in a situation like this? I don't know.
This is something that takes some, but it's more than we can do here today.
Kim, I don't think we'll be able to do anything quick enough to help you in your situation, but.
All right, I don't expect anything quick.
That would be
And I don't expect anything's going to help us. We're more focused on the fact that we'd like to keep this from happening to others. And we'd like to find a way that this contractor cannot continue doing this to people. Because like I say, we've got another family that's also filing paperwork with the attorney against the same contractor. Their dollar amount is much smaller. And, you know, if or when this does come out publicly, I'm sure that there will be other people that come forward with information too, because I don't think I am the first or second or the last that this will happen to. You know, and that's really unfortunate that this person seems to know these legal loopholes and knows just enough to be dangerous with his craft, and you know, is very convincing that he knows what he's talking about and that he will do the job. And you know, that's obviously not the case, but you know, we know we're not going to get help with this other than whatever legal action we can take. And, you know, we're okay with that, but we would really like to see something put in place to help protect other consumers going forward, because he is still working and advertising and very prevalent in our community. And, you know, that concerns me greatly, that there will be many others that also sign a contract, and, you know, and obviously those contracts mean nothing, at least nothing in a court of law, which is sad. So.
Kim, I'm sorry for your situation, and I appreciate you visiting with us here this morning, taking the time to let us know.
Taking time to at least listen, and, you know, all I can do is try. You know, at some point I hope to get some yeses, but, you know, I understand that there's a lot of no's before we get to those yeses. And but at least putting it out there and letting people be aware that this is a prevalent problem in our community, and, you know, and really across our state and probably across the country. You know, we'll keep pushing forward and hopefully trying to get things. I did speak with Jeff Edler, and he is also going to look into this, and, you know, at the state level, and possibly try to see about some change there. But you know, I'm not sure what else I can do other than bring it to people's attention that are in a position to maybe make some changes. So thank you for listening today.
You bet.
Thank you, Kim. And we'll visit with Todd and see if there's anything that we can come up with at some point. But
actually, it might be some state legislation too.
That's probably what will happen, I would think.
And that encompasses everything.
I think we'd be best dealing with both our House and Senate members.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Thanks again, Kim, for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, a discussion item, the radio project update, a request to give an update on the radio project. Where does anybody want to go with this?
Hi guys, this is Rhonda. How are you this morning?
Rhonda, good.
Good. Hey, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update and answer a question that you might have in your head, because I certainly had it in my head. So, but first, before we get there, Nan, do you have that recording?
I did. I actually forwarded it to James. So James, can you play? Do you want him to play both of them?
Go ahead and start the first one, and start at about the 2-minute mark, just so that you can hear what I'm about to talk about, if you would.
Not a problem.
Thanks, James. I appreciate it.
And you guys will have to let me know if you can't hear it. I'm going to try this here, and we'll see what happens. We're starting at about 2 minutes and 45 seconds in, correct, on the Clemens radio?
I think it's about at 2 minutes.
Rewind that.
This is the one, James, that I was not able to hear at home on my computer.
Not a problem.
It wouldn't open the program.
Here we go, starting 2 minutes.
State Center Fire, respond for mutual aid with Clemens Fire to Bryant Street, just north of St. Anthony, for a grass fire. State Center Fire respond for mutual aid with Clemens Fire to Bryant Street, just north of St. Anthony, for a grass fire. Time is 15:01.
Clemens 134.
Go ahead, Clemens.
I'm on scene. It's a brush pile. Contained here.
To Bryant Street fire. Time is 14:58. State Center Fire respond for mutual aid with Clemens Fire to Bryant Street, just north of St. Anthony, for a grass fire. State Center Fire respond for mutual aid with Clemens Fire to Bryant Street, just north of St. Anthony, for a grass fire. Time is 15:01.
Clemens 134.
Go ahead, Clemens.
I'm on scene. It's a brush pile. I'll get more information here in a minute as soon as I get back in here to it.
15:02.
Clemens Fire from State Center.
State Center.
I'm at the station here by myself. Do you want me to bring a brush truck or a tanker?
Tanker would be fine. It's contained here. I've got 2 piles where they're burning brush.
10-4, I'll grab a tanker.
11-5. You got 2 at the station. Would you like us to bring?
Comm Center, tanker 122.
Go ahead.
122 is en route with 1 Bryant Street, St. Anthony.
Correct.
Marshtown Comm Center, Clemens Fire, 135, responding with 1.
15:05.
Clemens Fire to the Comm Center.
Go ahead, Clemens.
132 en route with 1.
15:06.
Comm Center, State Center Fire.
State Center, go ahead.
Russian 125 en route with 2.
15:07.
Clemens 134 to 135. 35, copy. We're just south of the bridge here, north of St. Anthony. State Center Fire from. Go ahead. Clemens Fire, go ahead. All State Center. 4 by. Want to come again with that? You were breaking up a little bit. Rush 125 tanker. Jeffrey just called, said we can disregard. They don't have any reception from radios in that bottom.
Clemens, and from tanker 122. I can't disregard. I can't hear the rest of your traffic. Do you want us to continue? Comm Center, can you copy any of Clemens' traffic?
Clemens Fire, you got a copy?
Sounds like they don't have reception from the radios in the bottom and they could disregard. Clemens Fire from the Comm Center.
Clemens Fire, copy.
Clemens Fire, did you disregard any other traffic coming? All traffic, I'm only getting clicks from Clemens. Evidently they're having radio issues.
Comm Center, if you can copy this, you can show State Center tanker 122 on scene.
Direct.
Comm Center, tanker 122.
Tanker 122.
State Center is clear to the scene and go back to town.
Copy.
Center to the Comm Center.
Clemens Fire.
132, stand on scene, en route back to station.
En route back to the station, direct.
It's 134 the Comm Center.
Go ahead.
We're clear from the scene and on our way back to Clemens.
Direct.
Clemens Fire to the Comm Center.
Traffic for the Comm Center.
132 back in service.
10-4, back in service at 1552.
That ends the first recording.
Okay. So on that recording, guys, the reason that I wanted you to listen to it is because for a couple of different reasons. So obviously, this one was actually just east of the co-op near St. Anthony. Having said that, obviously this is a little bit of a dark spot. that's not the only dark spot that we obviously have in the county area. But as you can see, it started off with a decent recording. Now, the recordings, they're a little bit tricky because obviously you can always hear, now I say obviously because I deal with this on a daily basis. When you replay a recording, it will more times than not be clearer than what the actual radio traffic set is. Now this is a daily occurrence. There's a difference between listening to that on the recorder and listening to that on the actual headset and in the real life. Oh, I apologize. Let me turn my speakers down. So when you're listening to that, the reality of it is they weren't wearing equipment. So on a normal basis, I would expect to hear that kind of a the scratchiness, the noise behind it if I have somebody in like full gear. For the firefighters, it would be their SBA equipment. For officers, if there's maybe some major wind, something else going on. But there really wasn't anything else going on that day. So, part of this is also an update as to obviously the storm that hit us a month ago, because that was my first question. And I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. So I've been working with Clint, obviously, throughout this entire process. And I wanted to make sure that, okay, the problems that we're experiencing, because it is still continuing to go downhill. Can you guys hear me again? Somehow I got muted. Can everyone still hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Anyway, going back into that, when you're looking at the problems that are associated with the damage from the storm, those issues are not part of these issues. So I did have that conversation again yesterday because I've been doing, weekly updates, and we're at the point of almost doing daily updates as to where we're at, what's getting fixed, so on and so forth. I did ask very specifically and pointedly with that specific radio traffic and as well as the others, because this is becoming a little bit more of the norm versus the irregular and the rarity. The one doesn't have anything to do with the other. So the damages that are done, they still have to go in and fix that so that we have a system in place. However, that's not what's causing the degradation of the system. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, because that was a question rolling around in my mind. So I wanted to make sure that it was out there and clear to everyone else that no, it's not just because of the storm or fixing those issues. It's not going to get all of a sudden fixed once we get that damage fixed. It's just going to continue the process that we're going. Does anyone have any questions?
Rhonda, will the new system fix that area? Would that be an absolute?
It is okay, so everything that I have read, everything that I've looked over, and all the documents that I've seen, and I think I saw Diane on here. Diane, are you still on here? It is my complete understanding that will fix the system, because, well, it will fix that area immensely as well as other areas in the county, simply because of the fact of the placement of the new system. And that is honestly key in trying to fix those spots.
Rhonda, I am on. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was
Diana, there you are.
Myself unmuted. Yeah, the new system will fix those spots. The new site in that corner of the county was put in place just because of the communication issues that are there now.
Right, and that is a really rough spot. I can tell you that almost consistently we have issues in that area. It is very difficult, and it was good that I was able to have that recording to help kind of share that, because it's hard to explain it unless you hear the difference. Because again, listening to the radio, I can listen to the radio and be like, okay, what did they say? But then I can go and listen to a recording and it's clear as day. In this case, it kind of proves both cases, and it shows just how poor that recording was, or I'm sorry, the audio was coming through initially, not even just listening to it in the live site.
Rhonda, I've heard complaints about this dead spot in the Clemens and St. Anthony area for over 14 years.
Right.
I'm questioning why it wasn't cleared 14 years ago.
Correct, and I certainly wasn't either. There's always, you know, dead spots. I've obviously, and you guys know this, I've worked for 4 other agencies. There are dead spots. Oftentimes, though, that doesn't that doesn't contribute to the degradation of the system. So it's either not there or it is there. This one is kind of like a dual fold. So, you know, there, unless you have a tower like, you know, spaced out and numerous towers all over the place, there's going to be periodic, you know, short areas. All right, there's going to be things that are interference. I don't think that anyone can remotely say that there's not going to be some sort of a dead spot. And Diana, can you agree with that? But what it can say, I think I lost her again. What I can say is the fact that when you have the dead spots, that's one thing, but then when you add into that the, you know, where you should be able to hear them and you can't, that's the degradation of the system. So that was the purpose of the recording, so you could kind of hear that.
That's correct. That was exactly right, Rhonda.
Okay. And so, you know, and just going back from my experience, guys, you know, these previous agencies, I have dealt with these things, and that's why, you know, when it comes to those recordings, I do have that, you know, ability to explain the difference between, you know, those recordings, because everything can sometimes be heard better on a recording than, you know, the reality of it coming out of it. And I can give you a ton more examples, but we only have so much time, obviously. So I don't want to, you know, pound you down with recordings that this one was just happened to be a good one that kind of shows the both sides of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any questions or anything that I can maybe help answer? I just wanted to make sure that we understood, you know, I wanted to make sure that it was clear, because that was a question in my mind.
I don't have any questions at this time.
No, I think we
I appreciate it, guys.
completely understand it, and we're working on it, and it's just gonna take its time.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Absolutely.
Do all of our discussions about this need to be in the boardroom in a situation like this, or are we able to discuss this amongst ourselves outside of the boardroom or not?
You can't if you're making a decision. You can gather information, you can meet with anyone and have them come present any information. You just can't.
You can't
decide.
decide.
Ministerial conversation.
Mhm.
That's the gathering.
Gathering of information, you can ask clarifying questions.
You have to be very careful not to deliberate nor to decide.
Mm-hmm.
But you can ask, you know, you can ask questions to
Exactly.
get more information.
And there's a fine line between discussion and deliberation.
There is, and that, yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where you have to be extremely careful, but at the same time, you have to be able to do your job.
Yeah.
It gives me indigestion to try to live by the rules here.
It is.
Well, if you guys have any questions of me, I'm always available. So, I mean, I'm always here to provide anything.
Well, and I want to say the same, because, you know, we're more than happy to meet and help explain or, you know, expand on any of the discussions that start here in the boardroom without deliberation, but just to give you more information for your own use.
From a financial perspective, we're getting close to having some options. It's going to be easier when we get further into our fiscal year. We've got some wiggle room once we get a couple more months down the road and can get figured out what we're going to be with certain dollar amounts in our budgets and carryovers in some of our funds. We're not quite prepared to say anything yet because we don't want to give anybody any false hope. But all indications are, I think we may have a solution. I'm asking everybody for a little more patience. Give us a couple more months to get this nailed down, and we will go from there.
All right. Does that end the discussion on radios? Thank you all. Number 13, the 2020 census to conclude September 30th, and that might be old news at this point.
Sounds like it's done.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the timing of our agendas, you know, for the meeting, and when I posted, that at that time was the deadline, September 30th. Of course, since then, just in the last few days, a federal judge has decided to extend it back again to October 31st of this year. So now we have another month.
To October 31st.
October 31st.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's just to our advantage.
It is. So when I thought that it was going to be done, I came up with the numbers as of yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and the numbers on here, of course, are from last Friday, where the household completion rate was 96%. As of this morning, it's 97.9.
Wow.
So we're getting there. The non-response rate went from 25%, excuse me, to 26.8. And then the Iowa self-response rate went from 71 even to 71.1. So, and then the Marshall County, just looking locally, our self-response rate went from 68.8 up to an even 69%. So, you know, the long and short of it, we got another month.
Okay.
Yay, you know.
Hopefully it'll make some difference and get a better accurate count.
Exactly.
Will the gentleman that's at the bank be staying then at this point, or do you have any idea?
Okay, last week when I talked with Larry, today was going to be his last day. That's when the deadline was tomorrow.
Yes.
And he's going to be somewhere else as of tomorrow, and someone else is going to be here tomorrow. But now with the extension, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what Larry's plans are. So
All right.
hopefully he'll be back here because he's a terrific asset.
Yeah,
He helps in many ways.
He
Not
does.
only with just
Larry,
census.
Darrell, and Daryl.
Yes. In fact, maybe we should be paying him on top of what he's.
We got enough budget problems.
He's
Please
quite
don't
helpful.
offer that.
He was straightening out people.
Yes, he was.
Oh,
He
he
gets,
does.
he does.
It's just wonderful what
Oh,
he
he's
does. He's so good with people.
Awesome.
He is.
Yeah.
He's a very good
That's
people
Yep.
person.
All right. Let's move on to public forum. It's a time set aside for the public to make comments on topics of the county business other than those listed on this agenda. No action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in the public forum.
I'll just add one quick thing since we were just talking about our door monitor that will end. Tomorrow will be the last day of the door monitor. That's the end of property tax season. We'll see how it goes. But we don't have anybody to staff it because we're now using all of our election workers beginning October 5th down at the fire station for public in-person absentee voting. So we've had trouble staffing it the last couple of weeks as we're getting things prepared for that day and working on absentee mail-in requests, but
We knew that was coming.
we knew it was
Yeah.
coming, and you know, we had a situation yesterday, but we were able to turn them away. So it's going to be very important for all of us to really wear masks and maybe shields when we're out in the public, because I'm sure that not everyone will wear them. So just remember to be safe like you are everywhere else. And we're just pretty close to each other if you're walking around there at Great Western Bank. So you know, a lot of times you're getting within the 6-foot radius.
Okay, is there anything else that needs to be brought up? Lucas, you've been very quiet here today.
I'm a quiet guy.
Okay. I'll leave you be then. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to adjournment. The next regular session is October 13th, 2020 at 9:05 a.m. All business to be acted upon at that session should be submitted to the county auditor and recorder's office for the Board of Supervisors office by Thursday, October 8th, 2020 at 1:00 p.m. There being no further business to come before the board, the meeting is adjourned at 10:25 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Beat your hand on the table. There we go.